Today on the podcast, I'm actually in the hot seat and I'm being interviewed by my friend Joline Cloutier. She is the host of the Money Buddha podcast. And she said, hey, can I have you on? We talk a little bit about business. We talk about my personal life. And I've answered some questions in this podcast that I have never been asked before on a podcast. So I thought maybe you find this useful. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford, the founder of Vital Mortgage Brokering Podcast and Bricks Mortgage. And the goal with these podcasts is to bring you ideas, insights, and tools to help you improve your mortgage business. We've been doing this for 11 years now, 1.5 million downloads, and still having a blast. I absolutely love to learn. And once in a while, it's fun to actually have the tables turned on me. I did this recently with Ron Butler and now with Joline, and she has a very different approach, different questions. Before we jump into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell's an amazing tool for Canadian mortgage brokers to engage their database. It allows them to send out these reports that show home equity and buying power. And the cool part is that they have really high open rates, 60+%, and the engagement rates that from those opens turn into lots of conversations, which turns into deals. Check them out at ownwell.ca/Scott and check out this conversation with Joline.
Welcome to the Money Buddha podcast. Today's guest is the CEO of Bricks Mortgage and host of I Love Mortgage Brokering. He's someone who believes that the traditional brokerage model is broken and that true success isn't just about numbers or deals, but about creating a life that works for you. He is the co-founder of 3 kids, an AI enthusiast, a mindset nerd, and a person who knows that playing big doesn't have to mean burning out. After a divorce that flipped his life upside down, he went all in on building something different, not just a business, but a movement. Built on high performance, low ego, and a model that gives people more margin, more control, and more life. His purpose is simple: to help mortgage brokers truly own their success, their time, their business, and their life without sacrificing who they are in the process. So I'm excited to welcome Scott Beckford. Hey, Scott.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's strange. I've done almost 700 podcasts, but I'm usually on the other side asking the questions. I've done this a couple times, but it's always fun. So thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for being on. It's different when you're on a podcast. Like, I get it. I do love being on podcasts too, because it's a different mindset or it's a different position. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, it's a different experience. And I have to, because normally I'm always thinking about what's the next question. But in this case, I just have to be open to whatever questions you're going to throw at me.
Right? Okay, love it. I'm excited. We know each other, obviously, but I don't know you that much. I have still a lot of questions. I want to know more about your journey, everything. I guess, so you were a mortgage broker years ago and then decided to switch. I've always been curious about, I guess, the way that you think about things, business wise. I see that you think differently than a lot of people. So you were a mortgage broker, but then you realized that you liked training or helping other brokers with their business more.
Well, actually, that happened kind of by accident. So one of the themes that I said to you earlier is that I tend to follow my curiosity. And initially, when I had sold my mortgage business, my plan, because I love podcast, I was doing a podcast. I've had one for 11 years now. My plan was to help mortgage brokers set up local podcasts in their market to become the celebrity, to build connections, because I had found the value of building a podcast. This was in 2016. Now, a lot of people have podcasts. Back then, it was way ahead of the curve. And it was more difficult to do and edit. And so it kind of worked. I think I ended up getting about 20 some cities, but the mistake I made with that is that a lot of people were excited about the idea of starting a podcast, but most people flame out within 3 to 6 months. So then I realized we're going to have a constantly look for new customers. And I was in San Francisco with my ex, and I got a call from a friend of mine who was a mortgage broker who had become a realtor. And she said, I'm at this real estate conference, Scott, and honestly, you should be doing training, because the stuff that they're teaching here, I trained her on stuff. And so then I'm like, maybe she's right. And so what I did was I wrote up an email. I said, okay, well, if I were to train people, what would I train them on? And I called this program the $25 million Blueprint. And even if you're not a business owner, hopefully this will still make sense to you. But I made this idea of, I think this is what I would coach on. And then I put together an email and I'd sent it out to my entire list, which was a few thousand people. And I didn't have any of the training made. I just knew think of it this way. I wrote the table of contents. I sent it out and I sold something like $35,000 worth of training And I thought, this was at the beginning of August, and it was going to be delivered in September, middle of September. And I thought, oh my God, I actually have to build this now. And so I built this. The training started from someone else prompting me, seeing a talent in me, and then me just taking a flyer on, let's see what happens. And other people saying, yeah, I'm in. And then that's where it started. It all began with a phone call from someone else externally that kind of lit that spark. And then the feedback. And then the other thing I did, and this is a lesson I've learned, that I've been in business a long time. And a lot of times I would go and create something and then try to sell it. Instead, this case, I just said, if nobody's interested, there's no point in me even making this. And there was enough interest that then created the forcing function for me to create the training, and it went well. And then eventually it just morphed into, continue to grow and grow. And so that's kind of how that all started, how I got into, but initially it was actually not training at all. It was podcasting. And It's just that we couldn't get people. I didn't know how to get people to commit, to find the right people to commit for the long enough term for the podcast to be worth it. Because a podcast is incredibly valuable if you are a business owner, or if you just want to meet people, if you have a passion. Except you have to it's like planting, I call it like planting a vineyard here in Kelowna. If you plant a vineyard, you're probably 5 to 7 years before you get a bottle of wine. And you have to you don't need to wait 5 to 7 years of the podcast, but you probably have to wait 2 years before it becomes anything. And a lot of people don't have the patience to stick with it.
Right. Okay. Wow.
So that's the backstory on that.
That's cool. Okay. See, I didn't know. That's what I was super curious. I love that, especially like that's how I think about things. If I get excited, I usually just jump into it and like figure it out as it's going, like kind of jump out of the plane and build the parachute on the way down kind of thing.
I said I would build a bridge, and I'm already putting a plank down one at a time. So one of the other things I did is everybody who signed up, I said, I'll do a phone call with you, a consulting call. And when I got on the call, they're like, hey, are you going to train on whatever they would insert? And I'll be like, yes, it's definitely going to be. And I'm literally writing down everything they're telling me so that when I show up to do the trainings, this was like an in-person thing. When I show up to do the training, I have it covered. And so they actually helped me create the content, because in the conversations they were saying, well, I'm having trouble with this. Are you going to, oh, yeah, I'll definitely cover that. And I'm writing it down. But definitely cover that. That's a good idea. So that's it also helped shape it as well.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I feel like we try to perfect things, but the best way to figure out what people need and what they want to buy is actually doing it, or talking to them, or trying it and then tweaking it. So I feel like that's a really good reminder actually for anything.
Yeah, you just got to get it going. Now I have this idea of launch and learn. So you launch the thing and then you learn as you go. Because if you sit there always thinking you're going to make this perfect this or that, it's never going to look like you expect.
No.
I never expected to start a training company. I expected to create a podcast company, but I just started. And the lessons I learned in creating the podcast company made me better at the training company. So it wasn't a waste, but you just have to start.
Oh my gosh. And like you started a podcast in what, 2014, 16?
Yeah. 14.
And like people weren't doing podcasts back then. Like it was like,
no,
it wasn't a thing yet. So like,
it was not like it is now. I mean, Tim Ferriss was the big one at that time. And I listened to, so the idea for the podcast, and the other thing I'm a big fan of is don't look for a good idea in your industry when you can steal a better one from someone else's. And so I have this idea, look over the fence and be, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to go in their yard and take that and bring it back to what I do. Right. And I listened to this podcast called I Love Marketing. And I thought, this is great. There should be something called I Love Mortgage Bro. And if you saw my original website, if you go to the Wayback Machine, which is like the archive of the internet, and you can see what websites used to look like. You can see Amazon back in 2000 or whatever, and you see screenshots. It looks just like I Love Marketing. Like I literally just logo, everything's the same. I mean, a different premise, but I thought I'll make it what it is so that people know what it is.
Right.
If you want to be a mortgage broker, it's like, okay, it's a damn long email to type out, Scott at I Love Mortgage Brokering. Though I didn't think through, but that was where the idea came from. It didn't come from, it was just me, again, seeing something and saying, what if, could this work in our industry? And it turned out to work pretty well.
I mean, yeah. And I feel like back then, okay, so because I've been like seeing you on the sidelines, right? Because we're in the same industry. We're like different parts of the country, obviously. But when you started the Facebook group, so you started I Love Mortgage Brokering Facebook group, which is all of the mortgage brokers in Canada or whatever. Like
12,000 or something. Yeah, mortgage brokers.
Right. So brokers. And we collaborate on there. People ask questions. Like it's a big, huge thing. Super helpful. I mean, it can be, obviously it can be there's both sides of
it can be good and bad. People can give you wrong answers. Like you have to distill, you can ask questions and you can be like, that's a great answer. It's completely wrong.
It's not. Yeah.
But, right. But But
it's a good networking,
in general, it can help point you in the right direction anyway.
Right. Like anything else, you have to be like aware of the information and where it's coming from and kind of like use your judgment or whatever. Go do your research from there kind of thing. But I always found like, oh my gosh, like that's so smart that like who thought about this, right? And then kind of that's how we discovered you or whatever. Like I got to know who you were.
So I'll tell you where that came from. So that wasn't my idea. I was looking over another fence. So that the podcast came from the I Love Marketing. I looked over another fence and I was looking at, I was in this Facebook group with 25,000 people with Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Everybody here wants to learn about being an entrepreneur. I wonder if I could start a Facebook group for mortgage brokers. And I had no idea. Like in hindsight, everything looks really, the things that work, there's plenty of dumpster fires that I'm happy to chat about. But the things that worked, looking back, it looks like it's brilliance, but it was just curiosity, willing to give it a try. And then some things work and some things didn't. I didn't know the Facebook group would be anywhere. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of mortgages that get traded back and forth. People help each other. People they find lenders. Like it's insane the amount of help that can happen in that community that I had no idea when I started it. I just saw, hey, they're doing it. What if we tried it and see what happens? And it worked.
Right. And back then it was a lot of, I found like our industry wasn't very collaborative. Like mostly it was more like competition based ish. Like it wasn't as collaborative maybe as what it can be now. I feel like it kind of switched. There's been a switch for sure. I feel like that group really helped make that switch and kind of show everyone that everyone's in the same kind of boat. Like, I don't know. It just feels more like human, I guess, like more of a personal, you see the personal side of things sometimes when people like write posts, you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. Like, so
that's struggling with this or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's changed. And I think the industry has evolved over I've been in almost 20 years now. And in the last few years in particular, the people that are collaborating, ultimately, I believe that collaborate well will win because you can't outsmart the group. Like you can be really smart, but you get a bunch of smart people. And this is what I loved about coaching is that I would give my best ideas I had to a group of people. And then they would come back and they would improve it every time. Somebody would come up with a new version and I would go, oh my gosh, that's got to go. And so the cool part about doing small group training, which is my favorite, is that you give your best ideas to smart people. These ideas, they have like idea babies. And it's all of a sudden, you don't just have, if I have an idea and you have an idea, we don't just have two ideas. We may have 3 or 4 ideas by the time we finish combining them. And some of them might be absolutely brilliant. And that's the part that I like about, and the Facebook group is one of the ways we facilitate that. But for sure, the collaborative piece is in any industry, whether you're in mortgages or whatever. I think that don't think of it as competition. Think of it as how do I collaborate? And we can both win. There's a lot of opportunity out there still.
Oh my gosh, yes. And so I noticed that about like you and your businesses. So I've always like looked up to that. I was like, okay, he's obviously like smart, but like willing to do things differently. I had read a book, I listened to an audiobook years ago. So it's about the fact that we're taught in school that we can't cheat on a test. We have to do everything on our own. So we're like programmed to not think about asking people for help or who's done it before. Is it like who not how? Who not how? Yeah. So that's
probably the book. It was by Dan Sullivan. He's brilliant. Dan Sullivan is a brilliant thinker and coach. I've done some coaching with him. Yeah. So the idea is that when most entrepreneurs, when we have a problem, the first thing we go is, how am I going to solve this? How am I going to? And the better question is who already knows how to do it? Who can help me? Who actually loves doing this? And then that question opens a possibility. How just creates another thing for you to do. And so that's one thing. The other piece you kind of touched on, the cheat on the test. I've said this to my kids since they were little. I remember one day my daughter came home and she's like, Dad, I didn't do so good on this test. I'm like, so why didn't you cheat? She's like, Dad, I can't cheat on it. I'm like, I know, baby. I'm just kidding. Here's the thing though. When you get out of school and you're in the real world, you can absolutely cheat on the test. The problem in school is that we train people you're supposed to have all the answers, where why not just be the person who can find the answer? And I feel like in today's AI age, we're starting to realize we actually don't have all the answers, and we just need to know how to find the answers that we are looking for, right? Yeah. And so I think that's another key thing.
Cool. Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, so tell me about, so you started a brokerage where you said that it wasn't in your plans really. It just kind of happened.
No, it was never in my plan to start a brokerage. This was like, how did I get here at all? But again, I followed my curiosity. So I can tell you, sort of was your question, like where that came from, or what was
like, how did it happen?
So initially I did the coaching, and I love the coaching, I still do coaching, and I love coaching. And but I only coached mortgage brokers making a minimum of $100K a year. That was the threshold. And it was only not because I didn't have anything against new people. It's just that there's a lot of more things that new people need to be successful. And I thought I can really help the person who wants to go from 100 to 2, or the person who wants to figure out how to work less hours and spend time with their family. But I had so many new people reach out to me that I thought, okay, I'll run an experiment. And I'm big on experiments. Since I ran this experiment, I called it 5 Steps to 5 Million. And it was a training program for rookies to help them and to show them how to find business, how to convert clients. And it worked. Well, it worked sort of. It worked for some of them, but what I found is that there were people that didn't have good help. Like most people have a mentor model, and the mentor model sounds great. Busy mortgage broker, they can help you with files. The problem is you forget the word busy. And if you have a fire on your file and they have a fire on theirs, they're going to take their own first because they get a split on yours. It's just human nature. And so what I found was that the support wasn't there. And so what I decided was, okay, if I create a brokerage and we have this underwriting room with underwriters in there 8, 9 hours a day where people can go in and get help with files, and we can teach them the sales stuff. But if they don't, then how would that work? And that's how the brokerage started. It never initially started. It started and the idea at the end of that was to tell people, okay, great, we'll help you find and fund your first 10 files, and then we'll point you in a direction to go somewhere else. That was the initial plan. It didn't happen because people didn't want to leave. They said, well, we like it here, Scott. Why do we have to leave? And I thought, oh, shoot. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. And then the other thing that happened was people had reached out to me that I knew because I'd coached for so long, and they said, hey, can I join your mortgage brokerage? And I thought, well, my brokerage is designed for rookies, so I don't think you're going to want to be here under that. So then that got me down the path of trying to find a model that would work. And again, looking over another fence at EXP and Real Brokerage, which are the fastest growing real estate brokerages, I just looked at their models and thought this is what needs to exist in mortgages. And so that's what, I just copied that for our experienced agents. And we kept the rookie program as a training, as a feeder. Lots of those, if I look at our this last week in our town hall, I showed the top 20 agents. Like 4 or 5 of those people are from our rookie program. Like their top 20 agents in the company are grads from the rookie program, which is pretty cool, right? They started off with not being able to spell mortgage, and now they're kicking ass. And so I think but that's great. But even beyond that, they're able to help support their family. They've got, that's the cool part that I feel like is that gets me excited.
That's amazing. And that's funny because I was with a brokerage for 17 years or close to 17 years and never looking to really change. But I had always thought about like, where would I be if I wasn't where I was, just in case if something, something happened, whatever. So I always I had like that in the back of my mind for like maybe the last few years, and just kind of not actually looking or analyzing or looking to change, but I always had that in the back of my mind. And I noticed EXP, which got really big in New Brunswick in the last few years. And I was like, if ever there was something that was like EXP for mortgage brokers, that's for sure where I would be. So when I like noted, like, because you guys weren't like, Bricks wasn't in New Brunswick yet or for a long time.
Yeah, it took a while to get all the provinces for sure.
Right. You guys weren't even like, Briggs wasn't even on my radar. Like I wasn't looking actively, but I didn't even realize that it was like the same until I saw the website. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay. Like in like 10 seconds, like I read like the first page and it was like clearly everything that I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay. So when I had to switch, I instantly knew like, hey, well, I know where I want to go. Like it was like a no brainer.
Well, and we were grateful to have you. We got to meet in person recently in one of our meetups. And yeah, you're exactly the kind of people that we love, like people that are collaborative, that understand that we're not in competition with each other. If we can share our best stuff with each other, we're all going to get better faster. Yeah. And I don't think mortgage brokers, maybe we have 35, 40, maybe we have 40% of the market share. The rest is the banks. So we got a lot of opportunity to still grow and improve. And so you're definitely, Yeah, exactly the kind of people we love to work with.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. But like it's felt in the whole brokerage. Like people there are just like, I feel like I'm really at home. Like as soon as I stepped in, like I just already felt like, okay, this is where I belong. Like these are my people. Like, and I just met most people like a few weeks ago, maybe or 3 weeks ago. And it's just, yeah, it's the best. I'm really excited. So thank you. And I'm excited.
That's awesome. Yeah. And again, all these ideas just came from looking at typically other industries, what's really working well. And then instead of just copying what everyone's doing in your industry. So if you're a business owner listening to this, look at what works in other industries and go, how do I copy that? Right? How do I apply that in my thing? And I feel like that's where you get a lot of, and people accuse me of being creative. That's all I'm doing. I'm just finding things from other areas and trying to figure out what can work. Not everything will work, by the way. Some things will be a dumpster fire, but some things will work if you're willing to try it.
Okay. And also I wanted to ask you, so you're like very open about like your divorce and stuff like, that I guess it really changed. Like, I think you were able to make it a positive experience. And like, I don't know if it was changing your focus. Like can you tell me like what you learned, like basically Scott before and after your divorce?
Sure. Yeah. I have this idea. So I'm 50 now. So this is Scott 5.0. And so Scott 4.0, it's like an iPhone. Every year, hopefully you're upgrading and you're getting better skills and become, better empathy. And so Scott 4.7 needed some upgrades and he didn't know it. And so what happened was that, so I go through this divorce and I was not a good partner. If I'm looking back now, I was like, I could see why. You know what? There were some issues, and I just sort of put my head down and worked and ignored them. And then so going through the divorce, I realized, okay. And when I initially got divorced, and I went on, and this is going to sound terrible. When I first went on dating apps, I started looking, and I thought, this is all leftovers. And that is terrible. But I'm also a leftover. I'm like, this is, if anybody listening right now, please don't judge me too harshly for this. But that's what I thought. I thought this is all leftovers. And I thought I shouldn't even be on here. My mindset is completely in the wrong headspace. And so then I exited that, stopped, and I ended up doing, I went to counseling. I got coaching. I probably went to 4 or 5 different counselors for different types of things. I realized I had some stuff to work on in terms of empathy, in terms of understanding relationships, owning. There's this whole idea of attachment styles, which is a big thing. Adaptive child, which is your less than wise. There's the wise adult, which is when you show up as the wise you, and then there's the adaptive child, which is when you are responding and you're reacting and you're not thinking and you're emotional. And so I learned a lot of these tools, did a lot of work on that, read lots of books. I tend to go, when I go into something, I go all in. And all of that helped transform how I showed up. And then I did go and we had tried to make the marriage work after that. So I did all this work, or I was doing all this work, and I went back and we tried to make it work, and it just couldn't. And it was like, it was so broken at that point, and that you couldn't put it back together. And so I put it, and what was happening is I was showing up different, but she couldn't see me as a different person because she's got this history, and fair enough. And she's like, is this a temporary change? Is this a real change? And so what happened is that we realized that it's not going to work, but it's been very amicable. So we decided that, okay, we can't work as a couple. We still have kids. And so we still collaborate around the kids. We're in alignment when it comes to how we want to take care of our kids. So I'm grateful that neither one of us, because I know that sometimes divorce can be, as a mortgage broker, sometimes it can be a catastrophe.
Yeah.
And my kids have said to me, Dad, you're better. Like, I like you better the way you are now than you were before. And the same thing with my ex. And so I feel like I had to go through, it was something that I was never going to address or fix until I had that crash and burn moment. And now I'm in a great relationship. And I know for a fact, so I've been in this relationship for almost a year. And if I would have met that person, say a year before, it wouldn't have worked because I would have not been in the place. I was not healed enough in order to have a good relationship. And one of the things I learned, last thing I'll say on this, one of the things I learned from one of my counselors is that you can do a lot of self-work. You can do the counseling, and I don't think you need to be in counseling forever. If you do, I feel like that something's wrong. Like you need to unpack the stuff and then move forward. But I still go see a counselor though periodically. I still go see my counselor and I'm like, check in. And what my counselor said to me is that there are some things that you can only be healed in a relationship. So you can heal yourself. You got to show up as a full version of yourself, best version that you are, always working on it. But there are some things that will only be healed in a good relationship, because there's trust, there's vulnerability. And so that has been what I've been experiencing over the last year. I didn't know a relationship could be this good. And I feel a little weird about that because I'm like, this relationship is so good, but it's because we're both showing up as fully integrated people, and but I wouldn't have been able to do that. And my kids said are better. Like it's amazing to see the ripple effect of even a bad thing. But there was times it really sucked, for sure. There was times I'm sitting in my truck and I'm crying, listening to Louis Capaldi, which is not good music to listen to if you're sad, because it's all breakup songs. And like, oh, what's wrong with me? And then, okay, I'll just feel it and then move on, you know, or not move, feel it, learn from it, and then, you know, make different choices going forward. So that would be my, you know, how that worked. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like divorce is often portrayed really negatively and like, oh, like a failure and stuff. And I find by what I've seen, a lot of time it's kind of like beautiful, because then it's like your second chapter. Like you can not start over. Well, kind of, yeah, I guess start over, but like you can make different choices. Like, and most of the time you see people, like you said, happier with different types of partners or whatever, because it's just, you learn so much from it. And then I feel like sometimes it's just for the better, right? As well. Like it's hard.
And I agree. And I mean, I think it's helpful that my ex and I are both pragmatic in that it's, you know, for instance, recently we all got together for my daughter's 20th birthday, and I was there with my girl, and she was there with her new guy. And it was like, okay, but it's not about us. We're not gonna make this awkward. It's my daughter's birthday. It's about her and her birthday. She had her friends there, and we didn't want to make it about us. And you know, the whole, because that can happen. And so I'm very grateful that my ex is pragmatic, and because even if I wanted to show up that way, if you know, if she was batshit crazy, it wouldn't work. Or if I was batshit crazy, it wouldn't work. And so it does still take two, but I do feel like there's less tension. The other part is that I can be a better dad, because when you're in a relationship that you're basically like you're in survival mode, it's really hard to think about, okay, how do I be a good show up for my kids? What do they need? You're just trying to survive. And that's what it was like. And so then having that breathing room was really helpful. But it's not something, you know, I wouldn't change anything because I don't live in a world of regret. You know, I feel like I am where I need to be right now, and I'm grateful for where I am. I wouldn't change anything, but definitely I'm not surprised that I ended up divorced, given the amount of effort that I put into a relationship was very minimal. And it's a miracle that my ex actually had the patience to put up with it for that long, like truthfully. So,
well, it's nice to hear, especially even like I like when men open up about things that like women talk about stuff like all the time, but I just like hearing perspective from Jamie, like on that side of things. So thank you for sharing. I know sometimes it's not always like the easiest.
No, I'm an open. I know. I mean, I'm transparent. We're transparent with the way we talk at the brokerage. We're transparent with everything. I just feel that it's way less stressful if you don't have to worry about what did I tell this person or what did I say. It's just like, just be real, and the right people will be in your life, and the ones that aren't, that's okay. We don't have to be in your life either. You know. Yeah.
No need to impress anyone.
No.
Let's talk about, I call it BRX, bricks. So, what is it? It's bricks, BRX? Some people say.
Well, it's spelled BRX because I could get the domain. Let's be honest. That was part of it. And then we call it bricks just because it's easier to say and it can rhyme with things. And I also think, you know, what did the smart little piggy build his house out of? Bricks. Right. There's so many things, plays on words that I just love that kind of thing. And I wanted a name that was short. After having I Love Mortgage Brokering, I thought never again am I making something so long. So the BRX mortgage was much shorter. That was like, okay, this I can do.
Love it. That's funny.
Yeah.
So did you think about that name? Like, did it come from?
Yeah, well, actually, so it came from math. And so if you remember grade 9 or grade 7 math, where it's like solve for X. And so remember you had these equations and they'd say this plus this equals X, and then you solve for X. And so my mind was, okay, let's create a brokerage for the agent. X so solve for X, and BR, a brokerage, X is for the agent. But a name called BR equals X would be weird. How would I say it? It would look like one of Elon Musk's kids.
Right.
And I thought, I'm just going to go with BRX rather than adding an equal sign in there, because people won't understand what I'm talking about. Right. And even though I knew initially that's where the name came from, is it solving for X basically.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, no, I was curious. Amazing. I'm really happy that we were able to chat today. If someone wants to like follow you online, like where should they go? What's the best place?
Yeah, Instagram is where I'm most active. It's something I didn't really resisted social media for a long time, but then I realized first I had it's not what you know, it's what you know that isn't so is the problem. So what I thought was social media is a waste of time. However, I've realized that if done correctly, it could be great for connecting with people. And I started an Instagram account, really not that long ago, a couple of years, maybe a year and a half ago. And so I'm putting effort into Instagram. If people want to follow me on there, that's probably the best place to go. But yeah, Instagram I like a lot. This is what I realized. So I realized social wasn't going anywhere because all the dumb shit I would buy off of Instagram at night. So I have bought disco balls. I'm like, oh, I need one of these. It's on Instagram. I'm sitting there scrolling, and then next thing you know, I got these disco balls that you plug in, and then I hook it up to an Amazon Alexa. So then I'm like, Alexa, turn on the disco ball, and it starts going. And I just think it's great. And I bought a 22-pound mug. So it's this mug that's like pure steel. Okay. Don't know why. It's just so Instagram for me is where I it's like the town community where people are hanging out, and I do buy a lot of dumb shit off there.
That's hilarious. It's funny that you say that you thought social media was a waste of time. I also didn't do social media for years. I was like, we don't need to. Like, I was kind of like above it. I felt like I was like, I don't post. Like, I don't need to. And now I'm like the opposite, which is funny because I love it. So it's funny that you say that because I did feel like that for years.
That's what I thought, and I was wrong. I was wrong, and now I'm in the process of correcting it. The only thing I find is that I still have to be careful about it's so fine tuned to your likes and your preferences that it is highly addictive because it's going to feed me exactly Muay Thai videos, 22-pound mug, disco balls, stuff I didn't even know I needed. I can't remember what's the most recent thing I bought on there, but I buy something probably once a month. I buy some useless thing off of Instagram.
Yeah.
And afterwards I catch myself like, why did you do that, Scott? I'm like, I don't know, because it was there.
Yeah, it is highly addictive for sure. I feel like my phone is like a magnet and I just get swooped in there. As soon as I go in there for whatever I was trying to go for, and then I forget what I was there, what am I looking for? And I'm just,
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. You go to open up your phone and then next thing you know, you're just down this rabbit hole. And you think, how did I get here? And
that's kind of where I'm at right now, trying to be like, hey, I'm like putting limits on like social media apps on my own phone. I mean, like putting a parental control, like, because you don't realize. Like, until you're like, why haven't like been here for like an hour, not moved like my body. And
I have 3 disco balls and I have, I didn't buy one, I bought 2 because I add the cart. It's like, hey, you can get another one for half price. I'm like, oh, I can't.
Right,
I got to take a deal.
Right.
Like,
they get you there.
So I gave it to my daughter. I was like, hey, I got you a disco ball. She's like, what? What do I want that for? I'm like, I don't know. Everybody needs one.
That's hilarious. Very, I can relatable. I don't buy a lot of shit on like online like that, but it's really.
See, I don't shop. The other thing I've discovered since being divorced, I had to learn a lot of skills I did not have. One of them was like how much shopping that I didn't do because my ex did most of it. But Amazon is the best. Like Amazon 100%. Is so great. You click a button. Like I really am impressed with. You can find anything. It's like, oh, I'll be there tomorrow. And I think,
I know.
How do they get it so fast?
No clue. Yeah.
Same. Anyway. Yeah.
It's nice for like household things for sure. Like I'm like, we need soap, and then it's there tomorrow at my door. Yeah, no, definitely. But
I'll even buy clothes and stuff off there because you can also just return it so easily too. If you don't like it, it's really easy to return.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I don't like returning things. That's too like an extra step for me. But I get it. Cool. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you for being.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and this was a fun conversation.
So much fun. And a reminder for the listeners to go do something that lights you up today. Okay, bye.
Hey, thanks again for listening. Hopefully you got some ideas from inspiration or even just insight from my conversation with Joline. I really appreciate her and her energy and her just the fact that she's doing this, plus crushing lots of mortgages every year and a family. It was a really fun conversation. Go check out her podcast. And, if you're listening to this, a couple ways that I can help you. First, if you're a mortgage broker and you want to find out more about Bricks and what we're doing, just go to whybricks.com or hit me up on Instagram or need my social profiles and just say, hey, I want to chat. I'd be happy to chat with you. The other way is every week I create an email called the Peckford's Playbook. Take the best insights and ideas that I get to help you in your mortgage business. We send it every Sunday. You can get that on my profile or message me, and I'd love to send that to you. Thanks for listening. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the answer. This podcast is designed to provide some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.